Folks, this is a Noble Gold investment alert. Diversify now. Market crashes strike fast, devastating the unprepared. Just ask NVIDIA investors who saw $600 billion vanish overnight. No warning, no second chances. Noble Gold has helped thousands diversify their wealth with gold IRAs and physical gold. Having managed over $2 billion in transactions, Noble Gold is the trusted choice for Americans serious about financial security. When you open up a qualified account, you'll receive 2 5-ounce Silver America the Beautiful coins free. Folks, visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Don't just grow your wealth, guard it. There are no guarantees and there are risks involved, but I got to tell you, folks, Peggy and I invested in Noble Gold, and I'm really glad we did. Once again, that's noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. I'm sure you may have seen these already, but after viewing your video on the giant skulls and the placements of the foramen magnum, reminded me of a picture from a YouTube video where a guy claimed that his father and grandfather killed a few Bigfoot creatures and kept them in freezers at their home. 2 pics are attached. I was not sure if these were real, but the eyes looked to be real frozen animal eyes. The teeth were something that I was skeptical about until later I listened to the testimony of a serviceman. He and his 2 buddies had been drinking one weekend on base, and he made a noose out of an old stiff coarse rope. He put it over his head side and tightened it, just as one of them came up behind him and startled him, causing him to lose his balance and choke to death. They were laughing and didn't immediately notice that he wasn't moving, and then could not get the coarse rope to loosen in time. The man who died described being in a huge dark place, but could clearly see what he called a huge monster. A demon towered at least 8 feet over him, looking down and grinning at him, showing his teeth. He wondered why such a hideous creature would have teeth that were straight across like nice, white, normal-looking teeth. Anyway, the angel Michael shows up, rescues him, and he is revived by the emergency people. That story describes the teeth on the Bigfoot perfectly. This makes me believe that Bigfoot are Nephilim, especially after watching the video of the portal opening with Bigfoot crouching behind it. That was from a late Scott Carpenter. We want to thank Scott. He passed away last year, and we miss him greatly. He was a great researcher, and we showed that video or that picture. Scott allowed us to use it. It's on our website. You have to go and look at it, but basically there's a portal opening. It's a perfect circle, and you can see a creature kneeling on one leg, on one knee, the other one's up, and in a very elongated skull. Well, let me just weigh in on this, folks. I believe that Bigfoot are Nephilim. I believe that they are genetically manipulated. I believe this has been going on for years. If you go back to the Gimli-Patterson film, which happened, I believe, in the 60s, and as a kid, I'm watching this thing. I'm watching it when they released it. And I've studied, I've been a student of Bigfoot research for years, for decades. So you watch the creature going through the woods, and then it turns its head, and when it does so, it reveals its right breast to the camera. It's a female walking. Hair all over his body, but it's definitely a female walking, because you can plainly see the breast. So it's not a guy in a gorilla suit. I mean, you're trying to tell me they make female gorilla suits? Maybe, I don't know. I believe it's real. I do believe that the Gimli-Patterson film is real. So since that, Bigfoot sightings have gone basically through the roof. So we read in the book of Revelation, and I talk about this numerous times, but I'll state it again. Why? Because new people come to the show all the time. When the book of Revelation talks about the beasts of the earth, they are not talking about hamsters and giraffes, as the late Russ Dizdar used to quip. And he always got a laugh out of the audience for that. I believe these are the therion, the beasts of the earth. They have multiplied. And you get a 12 to 14-foot Bigfoot coming into your town, and they can bilocate. You can see them here, and then all of a sudden they disappear. I'll tell you why I know that. A friend of our show, Ron Moorhead. Ron came down with us to Peru in 2012 and 2013, I think 14 also. Very interested in the elongated skulls that were in Peru, because his encounters with Bigfoot, Sasquatch, they all had elongated skulls. So Ron said this in one of our Watches series, and it was the first time he ever stated it, because the story is so unbelievable that most people will just shy away from it. But we didn't shy away from it. Here's what he said, that he was up in this very remote location, and he came upon a fresh tracks of a Sasquatch. And it was 28 inches, 27, 28 inches. So that's 18 inches. It's like this big. It's huge. And the stride between footprints was about 10 feet, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was the number. And it went on for a period of time. They followed them. And all of a sudden, just disappeared. And the creature didn't jump off the trail. They just disappeared. Tell you another story. There's a woman hanging laundry out in Canada. Her property backs up against a national forest. In the distance across a field, which has been plowed, but there's no crops growing in it, is her nearest neighbor, about a mile away. The neighbor is hanging clothes on a clothesline. It's a beautiful spring day. As she's watching her neighbor, she's on her front porch. In front of her, about 50 yards away, behind some of the brush that is there, appears a Sasquatch. Just appears out of nowhere, pops in, and it's peering over the bushes, looking at the woman across the field hanging her laundry. Our witness is completely startled. Like, what just happened? And who wouldn't be? And she stares and watches for several minutes, and all of a sudden, the Squatch just disappears like that. They can move through space and time. They can stop you dead in your tracks. These are, in my opinion, modern-day Nephilim. Let's continue. Okay, good afternoon, LA. This is from Robert. I wanted to ask your thoughts on the eclipse of 2017 and 2024, where they intersect near the New Madrid fault line. Some are saying 2024, 2025 could be very important years in prophetic calendar. And Yahweh says the sun and the moon are used as light in the signs. The intersection, or X, looks like America is being crossed out. Any thoughts on this? Well, Mando and I have talked about it. Robert, thanks for writing in, first of all. It's something that I watch because I don't know. I find it interesting because, yes, there are suns and the moon and the sun and the sky and the stars. I get that. And the Lord has put those for our benefit. But what are we really looking at? So I don't know. That's the short answer. I just don't know. But I know about it, and so I watch, and I realize that the cities where allegedly the X crosses, there's some funky stuff going on there. Let's continue. This is from Matt. Hey, LA, thanks for all you do. Before my question, I should tell you that I never heard of sun gazing until your latest questions episode. That same evening, my wife and I went to the beach and saw a young lady doing that, standing in about a foot of water. Then I researched it and found a link to a magic spells site, which I did not click on. It was the first I'd ever heard of it. That same evening, I saw someone doing it. Wow. Christians need better awareness. Anyway, and I get it. Look, there are witches that have covens all across this country. I might make this stuff up. I was at a church, one of the churches here in Malibu, and we were outdoors at the time, and this church doesn't meet outdoors. It meets indoors, but for a period of time in the spring, I guess, the congregation sits and looks at the ocean. It's pretty cool. But as I was listening to the sermon, I glanced over, and about 4 or 5 seats away, there was a woman. She had a veil over her head, and she was working stuff with her hands. Okay? Very, very discreet, and there was no one sitting next to her. I was the closest person, about 4 seats away. But I could see her. She had a veil, very witchy, and she was doing stuff, hand signals and stuff with her hands. They're here. There's a coven in Malibu. I've talked about this before. I'll tell you again. When the old Malibu vineyard was still here, before it was completely broken apart, thousands of people displaced. The pastor died 2 years later. The head elder died 6 months after the split. I was the worship leader. I watched the whole thing, but I would come in. I keep hating this. Sorry about that. I would come in very early in the morning, and I would open up the church, turn on the heater, do whatever I needed to do. Turn on the sound system, get everything ready for the services. Music director. And it was a great position. And the Lord has since moved me out of that, obviously. I am no longer a music minister. I loved it while I was doing it. I play my piano every day, but I digress. But here's the deal. There was a covered walkway which led you to the front doors, to one of the sets of doors. As I'm walking down this covered walkway, and right in front of the doors, I see something which shouldn't be there. And I rush up to it. There's a circle about 6 feet in diameter. There is a pentagram within the circle Within the pentagram, there were candles burning. I believe there were 4. And in the center is a slaughtered dove that's been decapitated. That was a ritual done 2 to 3 months before that church split. When I went in on a Monday morning, because that's when we'd have our staff meeting, when I went in on a Monday morning and I told the congregation what I had seen, and I should have taken a picture of it, but I didn't, I was laughed at. Oh, we had nothing to worry about. 3 months later, the whole church splits. 2 years later, the pastor dies of an incurable disease, and all it goes. Covens are active. And when I told this new pastor that came into Malibu a story, he was really taken aback. He said, "Oh, you're trying to tell me there's witches here?" I mean, that's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. It's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. I don't think he believed me. That's fine. I was there. I cleaned up the mess. I cleaned it up. I scrubbed the chalk off the sidewalk. Actually, the janitor who was there did that. But I helped clean things up. Anyway, let's continue. Anyway, my question regarding old Earth, it's hard to keep it short, but I'll try. You mentioned 12,000-year-old sites. How was this known? What dating methods are used? You dismissed the footprints. But what about the dinosaur cave paintings, Behemoth, Leviathan, and Job, medieval dragon accounts? The rapid formation of Mount St. Helens. Look, I understand that. We're talking 6,000 years. That's all we're talking about. The old Earth guys believe that the whole thing starts 6,000 years ago. I don't believe that. I believe this thing goes way, 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 way back, perhaps millions of years old. Now they know that Mars has some sort of a nuclear event on the planet. So what do I have? I have places like Sacsayhuaman, which I believe are pre-flood. Before that, it gets very, very fuzzy. But something is going on. This whole thing is very old. And then it's a recreation. That recreation, about 10 to 12,000 years. Göbekli Tepe, 10 to 12,000 years. What dating did they use? They used carbon-14 dating for some of it. There are also strange creatures on Göbekli Tepe monoliths that are there, which do not walk on the earth anymore. So something is going on. Look, I don't have all the answers. And I know, answers in Genesis. I totally get it. And I wrote about Mount St. Helens in my book, Politics, Prophecy of a Supernatural Report. When that volcano exploded, it created a valley and completely changed the landscape in a nanosecond. I get that. I totally understand that. But the problem is a lot of Christians hold to this whole thing in intellectual concrete. I won't do that. I believe the earth is far older than 6,000 years. I believe mankind on the earth, 10 to 12,000 years, and then the flood. Just saying, finally, how can you reconcile the pre-Adamic creation with fallen angels, spiritual wars, and mass destruction? And God saw everything that he made, and behold, it was very good, Genesis 1:31. Well, it's a recreation. Something happens because the earth is tohu bohu, standing, there's a destruction that's happened. Angels just don't fall. Angels just aren't created on day 2 or whatever, and then they just go, okay, we're going to have a rebellion. This is why the whole idea of a young earth 6,000 years old, puts you in intellectual concrete. And your letter shows you that. I will not be in intellectual concrete. I'm a born-again, spirit-filled Christian. I believe in the validity of the word, but I'm an old earther. Gary Stearman is an old earther. Manu Gonzalez is an old earther. Bob Overts is an old earther. Many of the people that I associate with are old earthers. We believe something cataclysmic happened on this earth. I believe that cataclysm was a result of the rebellion of the fallen angels. And then there's a period of time, we don't know how long, and then there's a recreation. Look, read Earth's Earliest Ages by G.H. Pember, and then get back to me. Seriously, read Earth's Earliest Ages. That book is a game changer, and it promulgates exactly what I've been saying. Let's continue. This is from Frank. Hey, I guess because I watched so many of your videos on YouTube that this particular video was suggested to me. That is, it just showed up and I clicked. I would imagine you are aware of this information or have seen this video before, and I have to admit, I found it rather interesting to say the least. That said, I would like to hear your thoughts on this. I apologize if you have addressed this or covered this before, but there seems to be some validity to it. I'm still wading through it, but we'd really like to hear what you have to say. I know you've talked about this before, that is the idea that our earthly predecessors were possibly far more advanced than what we are now, and what consequences the presence and influence of fallen angels exchanging their knowledge for the daughters of men could have had at the time prior to Noah's flood. This is the link to the YouTube video, Shields of Sun Productions, Intergalactic or Interdimensional. So I have not watched this. I am just a couple of years younger than you. I attended Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa back in the 1970s. I listened to countless cassette tapes of Chuck Musser, so do I. I'm a longtime listener of you, Tim Alberino, Gary Stearman, and all the usual suspects. So the Shield of Sun Productions, Intergalactic or Interdimensional, these entities that Gary Stearman likes to call them intruders, because that's exactly what they are. They come in, they abduct people, they do nefarious experiments on them. Women are impregnated, sperm is taken from the men. These are not our space brothers. I keep saying it over and over and over again. They are not our space. Look, if they're our space brothers, why not give us the cure to cancer, for crying out loud? Why not give us something that we can use? Oh, no. They just take. And our film on abductions, which is number 4, I want to thank my business partner, Gil Zimmerman. We sat down with 4 people who have been abducted. 2 men, 2 women. And it's very, very disturbing. Of course, you don't hear about that from the other side of the aisle. Somehow it's all okay. They just paint with a very broad brush, and somehow they give these so-called extraterrestrials a pass. They are not. I'll say it again as long as I'm alive. These are not extraterrestrials. They are, in my opinion, interdimensional entities, i.e. fallen angels. Their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. Daniel 2:43. Jesus, they'll be like the days of Noah. Jesus, men fading from fearfulness coming upon the earth. Jesus, even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. What's going on? What's manifesting? The elect is already being deceived. There's that film that I talked about earlier that's coming out. Those certainly are the elect, in the sense of not in the body of Christ, not what I mean, but those are movers and shakers and players in our government. They are the elect in our government, and they are telling us that there's been an 80-year cover-up, and I agree. That goes right back to the Roswell crash. We have 2 films on Roswell. It's in our 10-box set. You can also stream all the UFO. All of our films are now 30 films. Streaming.lamarzulli.net, streaming.lamarzulli.net. What are you waiting for? And by the way, when you buy our products, you help keep us do what we're doing. We have a film coming out on the Shroud of Turin, Gil Zimmerman and I, Holy Shroud, Holy Fire. That's going to blow your mind. It's blown my mind. And I want to thank all those who came on the record. And hopefully it'll be released by the end of February, but we'll see. I probably will be talking about that at the Prophecy Watchers Conference at the end of March. Hope to see you there. Folks, run to disclosure. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Do your homework. I mean, seriously, do your homework. Thousands of you come here every day. What's $20 to most of you? And if you can't afford it, I get that. But $20, that's it. And you can get it on Amazon. You can come to our store, lamarzulli.com or runsofdisclosure.com. It's all there. The 10-box DVD set, you can stream them all. But if you want the DVDs, lamarzulli.com, and you can watch it. That's it for questions. I will be back, and I'll be doing some catch-up because I got a stack, and the questions never go away. Once again, questions at lamarzulli.net, questions at lamarzulli.net. I promise you, one day I will get caught up. But it's not going to be this week. Thanks so much for watching. Really appreciate it.